you basically need different mentors for different almost aspects of your life and of your business. So I've got a lot that they don't even know my name. Like, I've invested in their courses or their content. They don't have a clue who I am, but they've definitely shaped the direction of my business, of my future. So I've got one guy that I mentioned that's in kind of more the business space, not working with churches, but helps me understand business. And then I've certainly got some spiritual mentors. I've got some local guys here that are running businesses that are probably 10 times, my size, but they've gone through this journey. So they're helping me understand like how you grow through the different stages of this. Early on too, I noticed in the Christian space, there wasn't even a place for Christian entrepreneurs to get together. So we created a Facebook group of just a handful of Christian entrepreneurs. That's kind of been a peer-to-peer mentorship. There's been a lot of us on the same journey. So man, I agree with you that it's absolutely crucial that if you have an area in your life that you're wanting to go to the next level, man, find somebody who's already there and figure out a way to get them speaking into your life, because that's really, man, I don't know if there's anything else quite like it that can help you level up.
What was some of the things that kind of really got you excited and got you motivated and inspired to continue to really build out the marketing side of what you've been doing for all these years? Like what was it that kind of were some of the sparks and the winds that kind of, like the bonfire that lights inside of us and gets bigger and bigger as we continue to make even small wins? Like, what were some of those small wins?
Yeah, I think anytime that you can see the people that you're serving and helping get results, man, that's what keeps me going. And so when I started working with churches, and then you start hearing stories of people's lives that were headed in the wrong direction. And, just because of the little bit of the work that you're doing with that church, they were able to help them do a 180 and get to a much healthier place. And those stories really, when you start hearing those and they start coming in, every single week, you start getting up, and getting excited about the day, because like, man, this is making a difference. This is actually really helping.
You kind of tend to be complacent and stay where you're at until you're pushed into a situation where you have to make a decision. You have to make a choice.
Yeah. So, and I've been trying to tell churches, like, and this would also be true for businesses, is like when you see that there's like this canyon, this gulf happening in your business, in your niche, and it's just it only keeps getting wider and wider. And I think a lot of us will sometimes like procrastinate and be like, oh, I don't have the leadership energy to solve that now. I'll get to that, But what you don't realize is that leap is only becoming bigger. So the longer that you put off, when you see your niche begin to shift and change, and like, oh, we got to innovate. When Netflix was taking on, Blockbuster, they waited too long, and that leap became too big. And so whatever area that you're in business, when you start to see it shift, man, get out in front of it. That's going to be the best time to make that leap and lead the way, because the longer you wait, the harder that gets, the less relevant you become to your audiences, and the more likely that you're going out of business. That's what happens. What happens for churches where I hate to say it sounds grim, but literally a lot of churches are dying off because they have gotten old and they've not realized, man, we've got to keep reaching younger and younger to stay alive as a church. We just can't sit back and be content. And the same is true with businesses. If you're seeing that shift happen in your area, man, make that leap now and don't wait because it gets harder the longer you wait.
That's awesome. I had like a picture that came to my mind. That's just one of the ways that God, sometimes speaks to me. And this picture came to my mind as a bridge. I just saw this bridge, and I realized to myself in that moment exactly what that meant. And our generations, the people that have been running the churches for the last 10, 15, 20 years have been the older generations. My grandparents, some people in my age, my grandparents' age and my parents' age, I should say, but mostly it's people that are my grandparents' age and sometimes older, right? There's a much older generation of pastors. And so I've heard from statistics over the years that the amount of pastors, young pastors, becoming pastors of churches has been declining significantly. And it could be because of, income and just the other opportunities that are out there now. But with knowing all that, I saw a bridge, and I realized to myself that you are that bridge, and you're helping kind of fill the gap between our young generation who wants to be technologically connected and be connected to God, but also be able to receive the message, and has crazy things in life going on. Some people are working on weekends and just can't make it to church. And you're giving them that opportunity with the technology and the marketing and being able to reach the younger generation for our older generation, our parents and our grandparents. And I think that that's an amazing gift and blessing that God's given, and a task that he's given you on your life that is obviously going to impact more and more people as just time goes on. You're already, triple the size of one church, and I'm sure there's a lot more to come. But just being that bridge is an interesting concept alone, because I've heard other people talk about it in other contexts over the years as well. It's just like, how do we meet the millennials with the Gen X's and the Gen Z's with the baby boomers, and like just mingling and bringing everybody together for one cause and the victory overall of him. So that's pretty neat to me. That gives me some pretty inspiring thoughts.
Yep. And it's humbling to be that, bridge in the analogy. And I think it's going to take a really big conversation in the church world, because you're right. Like there's a decline of up and coming leaders. The pastorate is getting older, which isn't great when you think about how much is needed in terms of reaching younger and younger in the generation. So I think it's going to be this conversation of what does the future of the church look like, and even expanding our concept of what a pastor looks like. Like I know, like the younger generation, I work every single week with elementary school students at our church back there, and I love this generation that's up and coming. And they all want to be YouTube stars. Like that's the number one thing. And we get elementary kids coming in, and we had 2 kids that came in, and they were bragging about, like, one kid was like, this guy has the most, YouTube subs in our entire school. And I was like, how many you got? He's got like 24 subscribers. And he was pumped. I think he's like a 4th grader. And it was that was huge to him. And so I think I love this about the up and coming generation, that they want, like, the number one thing is they want to be a YouTube star. And I think kind of having this conversation of, man, how do we empower this young generation, man, to go for it on YouTube, but then to utilize their platform to share the good news and do what you guys are doing? Like, how does this flesh out in business, in your life, and what does that look like? And so I'm like, man, don't necessarily say, hey, you can't be a YouTube sensation, you have to be a pastor. I was like, no, go all in, be a YouTube, star and sensation. Just let's bring in your faith and pastor people on YouTube.
From all of your wealth of experience in college and everything, what would you say is the number one area and an opportunity for businesses or for churches, I should say, and even people that are business owners or kingdom business owners? What's the biggest opportunity right now online in marketing, would you say?
So I hesitate to throw this out, because it's a little bit one of my secret weapons. And I do feel like marketers will eventually run this. So I'll give a big disclaimer, like what I'm about to say, if you use it wisely, and use it relationally. And everything that we do when we're talking with churches about marketing, we are huge on your marketing being very personal, being very relational, being about getting to know more people in your community. It's not a megaphone where you're just talking and blasting people with email and social, where it's just announcements. So we come from a very relational, personal mindset. So that's the kind of disclaimer to what I'm about to say. But the one of the biggest secret weapons for us in our business, and I think one of the secret weapons churches could be utilizing more, and I think more and more businesses could be utilizing. I normally don't say this because I don't want them to run it, but honestly, it's text messaging. We have an email list of 42,000 people. Out of those, we have 20,000 mobile numbers. And man, the ability to text message your audience is crazy. The open rates, I think that it's ridiculous. Like a text message open rate, I think in the first 4 minutes is like 90+%. Response rate is like 40+%. I mean, when you think of the stats, they're just ridiculous compared to anything else out there. Now, you have to be very careful because if you come across as spammy or promotional, it has to be very relational. So you got to look at it very different from almost any marketing channel out there. But man, if you can harness the power of text messaging, there's nothing quite like it in the marketing space. At least right now, it is so powerful. So normally if I'm mentoring a young leader who's starting a business in the church base or otherwise, I'd be like, hey, as you're growing your email list or as you're growing your social media platforms, I'll kind of whisper, don't forget about text messaging. Actually make that like your number one priority. Get people's mobile number, because tomorrow Facebook can take away your page. They can take away your group. They can shut down Instagram. They can, you're going to have gatekeepers on email and every single channel out there. But man, if you've got their mobile number, no matter what's next, you can get your audience to whatever you're trying to get them to do. You can get connected to them. I like to give them an analogy to consider, okay, if they're going to pick a starting point, okay, explain to me, is it better YouTube? Is it better to be on our website, or is it better to be on Facebook? Where should we start? And so I've been using this analogy of a mall. So Chris, when you and I were growing up, like the thing to do was to go to the mall. We walk around as kids, and see everybody else. And so in that analogy, I would say, hey, if we're going to use a physical mall analogy, YouTube, in my opinion, is kind of like the food court. Like everybody is eventually going to end up at the food court, maybe a couple times at their visit to the mall. That's YouTube. We love YouTube. You're going to get there like once a day. You're going, like, it has a huge benefit, and everybody eventually goes there, maybe goes there multiple times. And then I would say that, that middle crazy part of the mall where everybody's yelling at you to buy their helicopter or do your hair or sell you a cell phone. Like everybody, like that's Facebook. Like it's crazy, but everybody is walking up and down Facebook. Like, but there's all sorts of people yelling at them and like, hey, dude, look at this, do this. So I was like, so just know if you're going to be on Facebook, you're going to get a ton of traffic, but it's a little bit sporadic. Everybody's trying to get their attention, but everybody is walking up and down that middle aisle. I think right now Facebook has 2.6 billion active monthly users, something like that, ridiculous. Wow. Not only that, but they own Instagram and WhatsApp and basically own everything. So Facebook's kind of that middle part of the mall. And then I was like, hey, your website is kind of like the Sears. Like, not everybody's going to go there. Doesn't get a whole lot of foot traffic. You got to kind of drive people to go there. But you get more control. Like you can determine where you want to put the signs, and how you want to lay out your store. And so your website, you're not going to get the foot traffic like you are being in the middle of the mall or being at the food court, but you're going to get more control.